Hello guys, hope all are doing good. In this session, we'll be discussing about the free radicals and antioxidants. It is very important and an easy topic to understand. At the end of this session, you'll be knowing about the free radicals and reactive oxygen species and their mechanism of formation of free radicals and free radical scavenging mechanisms, their clinical significance, and little about antioxidants. Okay, what is a free radical? A free radical is a molecule or a molecular fragment that contains one or more unpaired electrons in its outer orbital. It is represented by a superscript dot. See, like this. Represented by a superscript dot. Okay, how it is formed? Whenever oxygen undergoes complete reduction, it is forming water. But whenever there is partial reduction of oxygen, the products formed are highly reactive and they are called reactive oxygen species. Okay. The reactive oxygen species, there are 8. First one is superoxide anion. It is represented as O2 minus then dot. Next is hydroperoxyl radical, hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl radical, lipid peroxidase radical, singlet oxygen, nitric oxide, and peroxynitrate. Out of this, if you see, there is no superscript dot in 2 of them. One is hydrogen peroxide and singlet oxygen. Then you may ask, then why are they included in free radicals? Because of their extreme reactivity, they are included in the reactive oxygen species. Okay, you should remember hydrogen peroxide and singlet oxygen, because of their extreme reactivity, they are included here. Okay, moving on to the mechanism of formation. Okay, first let us see the generation of superoxide radical. Whenever molecular oxygen undergoes univalent reduction, it is forming superoxide radical. Okay, to generation of hydrogen peroxide, whenever superoxide radical accepts electrons, it forms hydrogen peroxide. Next, moving on to the formation of hydroxyl radical and singlet oxygen. This formed hydrogen peroxide reacts with superoxide anion in the presence of ferrous ion to form free hydroxyl radical and a singlet oxygen. And this is a named reaction and it is called Haber's reaction. Okay, see in this thing you have an important point, ferrous ion. Whenever this ferrous ion is removed, this reaction doesn't take place. And so a ceruloplasmin, also called as ferroxidase, which converts this ferrous ion into ferric ion, Fe3+. So there is no Fe2+, and the reaction is stopped. In the presence of ceruloplasmin, this reaction is not taking place and there is no production of free radicals. Okay, next is the formation of hydroperoxy radical. In this, whenever superoxide anion radical accepts a hydrogen, it forms hydroperoxy radical. Okay, nitric oxide is formed from arginine by the action of nitric oxide synthase enzyme. Okay, and whenever this nitric oxide formed reacts with superoxide, it forms peroxynitrite. There are 4 important characteristics of this reactive oxygen species. First one is their extreme reactivity. Remember, because of this property, we included hydrogen peroxide and singlet oxygen in this group. Next one is their short lifespan. Third point, they generate new reactive oxygen species by chain reaction. What is chain reaction? Product of one reaction will give rise to another product. This continues so on. See, if you remember, first formed product is superoxide anion, which will give rise to formation of other free radicals like hydrogen peroxide, hydroxyl radical, singlet oxygen. Okay, this is the chain reaction. From one reaction, the products goes on multiplying and forms all other free radicals. Next, this free radicals cause damage to various tissues in our body. These 4 are very important properties. Next, other sources of formation of free radicals, UV rays and other radiations. Also, whenever there is leak in mitochondrial electron transport chain, free radicals are produced. And inflammatory cells, free radicals are produced. And persons predisposed to or very prone to air pollution, they are also producing free radicals in their body. And very important cause, cigarette smoking, it produces many free radicals and it causes damage to the DNA. Okay. So whenever these free radicals are produced, they have to be converted into another non-toxic product. Otherwise, they cause lethal damage to the tissues. Okay, there are some mechanisms which converts this toxic free radicals into some other less toxic or non-damaging products. That product doesn't cause any damage to our body. Okay, first thing is in the scavenger mechanism is superoxide dismutase. In this, what happens? Superoxide anion radical is converted to hydrogen peroxide in the presence of the enzyme superoxide dismutase. Okay, so this hydrogen peroxide produced in huge amounts has to be converted to other products. For that, we have another enzyme catalase which converts the hydrogen peroxide into water. Okay. Next, very important, two enzymes, glutathione peroxidase and glutathione reductase. Okay, whenever this hydrogen peroxide is produced in the body, it combines with reduced glutathione in the presence of glutathione peroxidase to form oxidized glutathione and water. Okay, this reduced glutathione is important for converting this hydrogen peroxide into water. So we have to regenerate this reduced glutathione once again in the body. For that, we are having another enzyme, glutathione reductase. This oxidized glutathione in the presence of NADPH and glutathione reductase, it is converted to reduced glutathione and NADP+. And this glutathione reductase requires riboflavin as the coenzyme. Yes, we have generated reduced glutathione. So this reaction, glutathione peroxidase reaction can take place. Okay, for this we need NADPH, which is the main. We are getting this NADPH from the main sources, HMP shunt pathway. Okay, the main enzyme in HMP shunt is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, remember the NADPH is very important for this reaction to take place. Okay, other free radical scavengers are ferricytochrome and polyphenols, also scavengers free radicals. Next, moving on to the effect of free radicals on biomembranes. What is their effect on biomembranes? They cause lipid peroxidation. Okay, polyunsaturated fatty acids are present in the cell membrane and they're easily damaged or destroyed by peroxidation. Okay, what happens? We have three phases of lipid peroxidation: initiation phase, propagation phase, and termination phase. The main event in the initiation phase is the production of carbon-centered radical. This is the carbon-centered radical. This is R. R is the carbon center. R superscript dot is the carbon-centered radical. Or lipid peroxide radical. This is the lipid peroxide radical. ROO superscript dot. By the interaction of polyunsaturated fatty acid molecule with free radicals. Okay, these two reactions are taking place in the initiation phase. Okay. Next is propagation phase. In this phase, the carbon-centered radical reacts with molecular oxygen, forming a peroxyl radical, which can attack another polyunsaturated lipid molecule. Okay, what happens next reaction? There is also generation of hydroperoxide radical in the propagation phase. Okay. See, in this reaction, we are first in the initiation phase we generated what we have lipid peroxide. In propagation phase, this lipid peroxide gives rise to another free radical, hydroperoxide. So there is one free radical is generated from another free radical from neighboring molecule. This is called as chain reaction. Next, moving on to the last phase or termination phase. Okay, here the peroxyl radical reacts with another peroxyl radical and forms inactive products. Okay, the formed free radicals react with another free radicals and form inactive products. Okay, moving on to other important clinical conditions. In chronic inflammatory states like rheumatoid arthritis, chronic ulcerative colitis, chronic glomerulonephritis, these disease conditions are self-perpetuated by free radicals released by the neutrophils. Normally during these inflammatory states, neutrophils are recruited to their site and that neutrophils will release free radicals which will complicate the condition. Understood? Okay. Next, in respiratory diseases, there are two conditions. First one is bronchopulmonary dysplasia. The second one is adult respiratory distress syndrome or respiratory distress syndrome. In bronchopulmonary dysplasia, when a newborn is treated with oxygen, high concentration of oxygen for a longer time, the respiratory epithelium is converted into bronchopulmonary dysplasia. Next is respiratory distress syndrome. Whenever Neutrophils are secreted to lungs. It secretes free radicals and leads to pulmonary edema. The disease of the eye. First condition is retrolental fibroplasia. It is also called retinopathy of prematurity. What happens here? It is seen in the premature infants who are treated with pure oxygen for longer time. And here free radicals are released, which causes thromboxane release. What is the role of thromboxane? It causes sustained vascular contraction and it causes cell injury. Second condition is cataract. It is due to photochemical generation of free radicals and it causes damage to tissues of the eye. Okay, next, reactive oxygen species also play an important role in degenerative diseases of the brain like Parkinsonism, Alzheimer's, and multiple sclerosis. Also, they are important in the aging process and they causes aging. Moving to a very important concept here, atherosclerosis and myocardial infarction. See, this picture will explain you everything. Normally, LDL particles are deposited under the endothelium of the blood vessels. Whenever free radicals are generated, they oxidize the low density lipoproteins, and this attracts macrophages. Then these macrophages are converted to macrophage foam cells, initiating the atherosclerotic plaque formation. This foam cell will initiate the formation of atherosclerotic plaque. Understood? And these are deposited in the blood vessels and cause myocardial infarction. Understood? This is the mechanism. Oxidation of LDL will give rise to the formation of attraction of macrophages. The macrophages will form foam cells, which leads to atherosclerotic plaque. Okay. Moving on to the role of free radicals in phagocytosis. This is the reaction taking place in the macrophage. This oxygen in the presence of NADPH oxidase is converted into superoxide. This superoxide in the presence of superoxide dismutase is converted to hydrogen peroxide. This hydrogen peroxide in the presence of myeloperoxidase enzyme converted to hypochlorous acid. This hypochlorous acid kills the bacteria in the macrophages. Okay, for this other important requirements are NADPH, which is from the HMP shunt pathway. The enzyme is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Okay, this is what is taking place in the macrophages. Okay, in chronic granulomatous diseases, NADPH oxidase is absent. So whenever this NADPH oxidase is absent, what will happen? This generation of H2O2 will not take place. Generation of HCl, hypochlorous acid, will not take place. So normally the macrophages will ingest the bacteria, but they cannot kill the bacteria. This function is lost. Okay, understood? Okay, next condition. G6PD deficient individuals are more resistant to infection with Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, I'll say you about this Plasmodium falciparum. For the survival of this Plasmodium falciparum, it requires H2O2. Okay, H2O2 is important for their survival. Once this G6PD is absent, all these reactions will not take place and this H2O2 is not generated. Okay, whenever this H2O2 is not present, they cannot survive in such individuals. So, G6PD deficient individuals are more resistant to infection with Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, moving on to antioxidants. Okay, antioxidants are substances which prevent the formation of free radicals or they protect them from the lethal effects of free radicals. They are classified into two categories according to their function. First one is preventive antioxidants. Their role is to inhibit the initiation phase or initial production of radicals. Okay, example are catalase, glutathione peroxidase, EDTA. Next group is chain breaking antioxidants. They can inhibit the propagation phase. Example, superoxide dismutase, uric acid, and vitamin E. Okay, moving on to some examples of naturally occurring antioxidants. First three are antioxidant vitamins. First one is beta carotene, present in carrot, yellow papaya. Second one is vitamin C or ascorbic acid, present in citrus fruits. Third one is vitamin E or tocopherol, present in vegetable oil on legumes. Vitamin E, also called as alpha tocopherol, acts as the most effective naturally occurring chain breaking antioxidant in tissues. Okay, it's very important. And then other examples are also given here, and our daily using food, turmeric is very rich in antioxidants, curcumin. So that's why we are using it in our day-to-day life. Okay, you can see the other examples also. Okay, another thing, okay, when you're buying packaged food, you can see preservatives, food preservatives added. The label will have preservatives added. Okay, what is present in that preservative? Preservatives contains antioxidants. Food which contains PUFA, that is polyunsaturated fatty acids, has to be prevented from peroxidation by free radicals. So we are adding antioxidants in them to prevent the rancidity of food. Okay, that is an important application of this antioxidants. They are used in food preservatives to prevent rancidity of food. Okay. Next is the important questions what we have from this topic. Short notes, we have three short notes. First one is antioxidants. You have to explain about the two groups and the examples of antioxidants. Next is free radicals. They may ask the free radicals examples, and you should explain the formation of free radicals and mention about chain reaction. Third one is free radical scavenging mechanism. You should explain all the mechanisms. Short answers, we have antioxidant vitamins. Remember the three vitamins and write it correctly. Okay, that's all with the session. Hope all understood the concept clearly. Thank you.